Hey guys, welcome back to A2D. We got breaking news today. We've been waiting to get on this topic. Personally been waiting with my fingers crossed, hoping, that it wasn't gonna come. But I'm happy. Tom Brady officially retires. He posted on his social media outlets today that a lengthy statement issuing his retirement. That's it. It's a wrap. 22, 21 seasons in the NFL. 2 in Tampa, 19 in New England. Hell of a ride. Like I said, I was holding out hope because the way he could still play, man, 44 years young, out there slinging it, just led the NFL in passing yards. I think second or whatever in touchdowns, maybe first. He could still play. So I was hoping one more shot, go out on top, go out with the ring, but can't be mad at the guy. Obviously, nothing but respect, nothing but appreciation for everything that he's done. He's the GOAT. Enough said, man. So what do you think? To me, he's the best. All right, go ahead.
I was like, first
Technical
of all,
difficulties.
hey guys, welcome to the show. Second of all, I still don't believe it. I don't believe it. So until week one comes around, he's not in uniform. Like, I don't believe it. So he has the capability of kind of calling his own shots and saying, hey, he could be a week before the season. Hey guys, I'm in shape. Let me come back. But I think if the Bucks go out and there's already some circulation going around of maybe bringing in Aaron Rodgers or Garoppolo or all these other names are going to fly around. If they go and make a move, I think Tom has enough respect for the organization to say, okay, guys, I made a decision. I'm going to hold to it. So if something like that happens, I think that's going to be the final nail in the heart. But as of right now, man, I still, I respect his decision to step away and be with his family. I mean, that's family comes first, no matter, if you're Tom Brady or, guys like us. So I really hope the guy the best. I think he's going to probably get into some kind of football, executive position at some point. But yeah, take a couple of years, Tom, and enjoy your family, enjoy that beautiful wife of yours, man. Enjoy those beautiful kids. You've done enough. No one will fault you for stepping away at this point. So, good for you, man. It's too bad Adam Schefter had to take the air out of your tires there, so, had to say it a couple of years, had to take it a couple of days too soon, but two Michigan guys, what can you say? They might be best friends. We don't even know, so, but yeah, man, Tom is obviously the greatest quarterback to ever play, one of the greatest football players to ever play. He's up there in my top 10, maybe of athletes of all time. So you can't really fault the guy, and he deserves every accolade and everything he gets, along the way. So, congrats, Tom, on the retirement. That's all I got to say about that. So.
For sure, man. And I mean, we can get into the whole top athletes of all time. That's a good one to get into. We might have to get into that one, but to me, he's number one. I think he passed Michael Jordan just now with winning in Tampa. I think that put him ahead of Michael Jordan, who was number one for me. I think Tom is now number one. Leadership. It's the hardest sport to win in, and he always does. He wins no matter what. He's the GOAT, man. To me, he's the GOAT athlete, not just football player. He's the GOAT athlete. And I think this was to release the news when he did. All the reports, like you mentioned, Adam Schefter and everything, there was a lot of reports going on. They had legs on him, and they were for good reason, obviously. Like, he didn't deny. This is the first time he wasn't denying all the reports. He would always, oh yeah, I'm coming back. Right after the Super Bowl last year, I'm coming back. And this year was the first time he wasn't saying it. And everyone kind of had a feeling, and it turned out to be true. I think his mind was made up. And I think that's why I think it's official. I think it's done. He has nothing left to prove. He obviously to like I said, the time now, because he's not waiting for what the Bucks are going to do. He's not waiting on any team and how it's going to play out. He made the news because that's what the plan was all along. I feel he's 44 years old. He can't go forever. He wants to go out on his terms. He went out playing the best. We've never seen anyone in any sport age the way he did. He redefined longevity. He's TB12 brand, what he's done, the sacrifices he's made. It's unparalleled. It's unmatched. He's in a league of his own. And like I said, when any athlete, when he was in New England, I was always kind of a hater, honestly. I kind of was like, oh, Peyton Manning, was better initially. Once before he came to Tampa, everyone already knew he was the GOAT in football. What made him the GOAT in sports is what he did for another organization, because that shows, like, everyone called it the Patriot way. Obviously, it was the Brady way, and he carries that everywhere he goes. I think his businesses are about to be extremely successful. His social medias, everything he was doing since he got to Tampa, all of a sudden we got to see his personality. We've seen how the dude's hilarious. We never got to see that before in New England, and we got to see it. He rebranded himself almost a little bit. He's got the Brady brand now, and it was just good to see. Like I said, I didn't like him a whole lot before, but seeing him firsthand, seeing him every single game, like you see, and you get a more of an appreciation for him. And his attention to detail, he's obviously not the most athletic guy, but his brain, was second to none. That
Definitely
dude
not
was
the
an
most
animal.
athletic guy.
Far from it. He's not the most accurate guy, doesn't have the biggest arm, all that crap. But the dude's drive, his mental toughness, his willingness to sacrifice everything is unmatched. To do it at that age, to compete with these youngsters, GOAT. Enough said, man. I'm gonna miss him. The Bucks obviously have their hands full. We'll get into that on another day, trying to replace him. They're gonna have several options, but this is just about Tom Brady appreciation, man. Like, shout out, appreciate what you did for my team and the guys around. Everywhere he goes, he raises those around him, whether it's players, coaches, everything. Like he just rubs off greatness, and it happened in Tampa, and I'm forever grateful for it.
Yeah, you talk about greatest athletes of all time. I do definitely give him the greatest quarterback. He's not my top athlete of all time. If we're gonna go into top five, and we're gonna go into different sports here, but he's definitely in my top five. I'm not gonna knock the guy. Quarterback is the leader of a football team, so he's the leader on the football field. So if you're gonna say best football player, you got to go with quarterback in my book. So yeah, I'm gonna put Tom Brady at number one in the NFL. But if my favorite athlete or my top athlete of all time, I'm actually gonna say Tiger Woods, only because that wasn't a team sport. He did most of that with, obviously with a caddy and trainer and all that, but he did it on his own. So if we talk about top athlete, he's actually my number one because of the reason he did it kind of solo. Everything was on him. He made his shots. Didn't have the Gronks, didn't have the Russ Welkers and all, the Edelmans and everybody, the Belichicks, but I think Tom, I still have to go with MJ at number two, only because of what he did for the game of basketball. He in the 90s, he revolutionized that high flyer. I mean, I know that there was a couple guys in the 80s that, dunk started to become popular, but Jordan was the one that started taking off from the free throw line, and, he made it an international sport. I mean, China. So what he did for the sport too, kind of already, that's why I put him at number two, but Tom's at number three for me, because I think there was Joe Montana, there was Elway, there was guys kind of before him that already kind of laid the groundwork for greatness. And then Tom just kind of came and he took that to the next level, but he didn't necessarily lay the groundwork, whereas Tiger, first name you think of in golf is Tiger. So, that's there. And then four would be Wayne Gretzky for me. He did the same thing for hockey. Him, Mario Lemieux, Mark Messier. There's some guys in the 90s that you talk about that, were great players, but nobody was as good as Wayne the Great. So, he's number one.
He held like every statistical record in hockey that you can think of, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, he owns goals. He owns, goals in a
Plus
season.
he won, right? He won, how many Stanley Cups?
4. I think he went to 6, and I believe he won 4 with Edmonton. So, I mean, and then he went to LA,
Undisputed.
and yeah, it just was a goal machine. So in NHL, I mean, there's not really much talk. You could talk about maybe Sidney Crosby and what he means to the game today, maybe Mario Lemieux, what he meant to the game in the 90s, but nobody beats Wayne Gretzky in hockey.
There's no question. Yeah, there's no question. There's no debate about that.
Yeah. Number 5 is kind of where I get kind of rocky, because I want to throw other sports in there. You talk about like Cristiano Ronaldo in soccer. I hate soccer, but the guy. So you talk about guys like that, you kind of have to give them the props. But my number 5 of all time is actually Jerry Rice, because Jerry Rice and Tom Brady, to me, are neck and neck for greatest football player of all time from what they've done. Joe Montana's up there too, but Jerry Rice, man, he just went about his business. He holds almost every receiving record that there is. And year in, year out, he was over 1,000 yards, 100 catches, 15. I mean, it's just in a league where defenses are
records that
tougher.
last forever, records that won't be touched, that we don't even fathom those ideas, those records, getting touched. He is in a league of his own. That makes total sense, dude, for sure.
Yeah. So, and he competes with Brady in my NFL column, but yeah, those two guys, and I don't think you're going to get much combat from people, outside of, fanatics who are going to talk about, John Elway or something stupid, Peyton Manning. If for real sports fans who know what they're talking about, they're going to say Tom Brady, Jerry Rice, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, they're going to, even Aaron Donald is making a very strong case for best defensive player of all time.
Prime time, man. I always love prime time, dude. He's one of my favorite football players of all time. The fact that he did it all, he'd return punts, play defense, offense. He play on the field every play. Like if he gets the ball, that's prime, man. I always love prime. My top 5 is a little different. I actually have my 3 and your 1 switched. I have Brady at 1, Tiger at 3, MJ at 2. 1, and my reason is kind of, you say Tiger because he was by himself. To me, you only got to control yourself. That's why NFL, to me, they got 22 starters. You got to be a general. You got to get these other guys. You got to raise them up too. You got to make sure everyone's on the same page. So Tom's leadership, his ability to recruit, his ability to sacrifice money, sacrifice time, sacrifice everything. He in an ultimate team sport, he was the ultimate leader in sports history. To me, he's number 1. He won no matter what. He was clutch, and since that first time he took the field, he doesn't blink. That's the thing about Tom. He never backs down from a challenge. He's got the Mamba mentality, I guess I'll call it. He didn't want to run. He crossed off every challenge he could possibly cross off, and then all of a sudden, the only one that was left was, can you win without Belichick? Boom, cross that one off. Cross that one off too. So he takes every challenge head on. The guy has never blinked. As soon as he got on the field, the first time when Drew Bledsoe went down, he doesn't blink. He went all in for 21 years in the ultimate team sport. He's the GOAT athlete, not just the GOAT football player. To me, he's number 1. My 4 and 5, I'll just be quick with it. I'm going to be a homer. 4 and 5, Kobe and Mike Trout. Holla at me.
Yeah.
Those are
baseball is hard for me to throw anybody in there, because if you ask me, I'm going to go with a guy like Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey Jr. Because I was fans of theirs. I don't know the game enough. There's Lou Gehrig, there's all these guys from the old time, that you could throw in there too. Derek Jeter. There's a lot of guys you could throw in there. I just don't know I don't know enough about baseball to really go into stats and all that kind of stuff. Baseball.
And the only reason right. Yeah. Sorry. The only reason I say Trout is because everyone's going to say he doesn't have a World Series. He doesn't go to the playoffs, yada, yada. He's the best baseball player I've ever seen. And it's not even close. I've seen Barry Bonds. I've seen Ken Griffey Jr. I've seen these guys, but the consistency that Trout, the only thing that can stop him is an injury. He's the best, most talented freak show football player I've ever seen. You think of Bo Jackson when you think of Mike Trout. You think of Mickey Mantle, the guys from way, way, way back. But for me, like I said, this is my top 5. This is my list. From what my eyeballs see, Mike Trout is the best. And Mamba, obviously, I'm a homer. He's same with Tom Brady. The sacrifice, the toughness, the clutchness, the athletic ability. He's second to Mike only, as far as hoops goes in my book. So that's why I got him in there. But yeah, that's my top 5. Either way, this is about Brady and where he ranks. He's my first. He's your third. Where does he rank on your guys' list? Is he the best athlete player? I know some people don't even have him as the best football player because, like you said, Jerry Rice. A lot of people haven't. Jerry, he's just like Tom. He had the longevity like Tom, he consistency like Tom, leadership, like, you know, he just didn't touch the ball. He didn't play quarterback position. And to me, the quarterback position is a little bit tougher to play than any other position in sports. Honestly, you got to control your protection. You got to read the defense. You got to keep everybody happy. You got to be accurate. You got to be able to escape things like what Josh Allen is doing. You can't do that. Like what we ask these quarterbacks to do in today's NFL and what the quarterback has to do, to me, it's unmatched. Maybe a pitcher, you could have a starting pitcher who affects the game. It can completely control a game in baseball, you know, to an extent. And that's still a team sport. But as far as a team sport, the level of importance is quarterback. And no one's ever done it better than the GOAT, man. And that's why I got him up there, you know, but that's me. That's my 2 cents on it. Like I said, a lot changed when he came to Tampa. I didn't quite have him up there. I always knew he was the greatest quarterback of all time, but seeing it firsthand, everything he's done, what he does for everyone around him, what he did for the city of Tampa, put us on the map, honestly, these last couple of years. So, like I said, I'm forever grateful. I'm going to miss him. You know, I know you talked about, I'm glad not seeing Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes in another Super Bowl. And I know most of the world agrees with you, but now that he's gone, we can't say that we're not going to miss him a little bit, man. Being down 27-3, coming all the way back, like I talked about earlier, he never blinks, man. The fire within this guy, the passion, the love that he always displays. I'm going to miss it. I know that's for sure.
Yeah, I saw my story about Tom. You know, I obviously 2001, he comes on the scene, takes over for Bledsoe after Bledsoe takes that nasty hit, and they don't miss a beat. You know, and he goes in, and I think they finished somewhere around 12-4, 11-5, or somewhere around there that year, and obviously going on to win the Super Bowl. You know, so you get to see it right off the bat that he was different. 2004 was my chance to actually see him play live. It was when they played the Chargers. That was actually a hell of a football game. LaDainian Tomlinson's another guy that you could throw. I mean, he's not in the top 5 or nothing, but he's an honorable mention because
What a
that guy,
sick ass game to go to, man. You see some Hall of Famers, dude.
my father, like we're both Vikings fans, diehard Vikings fans, and at that time, we didn't really realize what we were watching. Let's put it that way. It was Drew Brees against Tom Brady. It was, you know, Rodney Harrison was actually part of the Chargers at the time.
Might have Junior Seau too.
Junior Seau was there. LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, Teddy Bruce. You name it, man. The field was loaded with Hall of Famers. And I remember my dad. He got into the game, you know, and that was I think that was the only football game I ever went to with my dad as a kid. And, you know, there was fights breaking out behind us, and my dad's a very quiet person, and he, you know, starting to get riled up and starting to get mad at fans. He was into the game. And I remember us sitting there. It was right around the third quarter. I think LaDainian Tomlinson scored, and he looks at me, and I remember this like it was yesterday. He looks at me and he goes, "Do you realize what we're seeing right now?" And I thought he was talking about LaDainian Tomlinson. And I said, "No, not really." He goes, "That number 12 on the Patriots," he goes, "he's already won a couple Super Bowls. That guy is going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play." And then he starts talking about, you know, Drew Brees. He goes, "Drew Brees is a good quarterback. We just haven't been able to see him yet. LaDainian Tomlinson, that guy is going to go down as one of the greatest." Like, my dad is kind of where I learned all my sports from. But I remember watching that game, and even though the Patriots lost that game, he was talking about Tom Brady, how he was already different and already, you know, laying the path for, you know, greatness. And, you know, sure as shit, here we are, 17, 18 years later, and he's retiring and, you know, going down as the GOAT. I don't think there's Joe Montana you could talk about, but I don't think there's really any question that he is the greatest quarterback to play. 10 Super Bowls will go unmatched probably forever. To go to Super Bowl 50% of the time and to win 70% of those is pretty incredible in today's NFL. You're seeing,
I'm pretty sure that one's set in stone.
Yeah, for forever and always. I mean, unless you start getting longevity of 30 years, you're just not going to see it again. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has been to 2.
It's a new era too. Like these guys are getting paid these crazy numbers nowadays. They have so many other things going on. Tom, for him, he sacrificed everything, man. He put everything else on hold. Family, marketing, whatever. He could have been in TV. He could do whatever he wants. He has every offer you can imagine, and he pushed them all to the side, and he focused on, being the best, and he was, man. It's gonna be tough. We're gonna have our hands full trying to replace the guy. But I mean, you said you got to watch him live. I did too, man. I got to go see him in Tampa. Something I'll never forget. My son, my little boy has a Tom Brady jersey. Something that I'll never forget what he, did. We went out there because we knew it was gonna be a once in a lifetime thing. I knew it wasn't gonna be long, so me and my family flew to Tampa because I had to. There's not too often the GOAT comes to your favorite team and takes him to a Super Bowl, no less. You got to go see him. I went to go see him. It's something that I'll never forget. The first time me seeing my Bucks, I seen him in San Diego one time. When Jameis was still the quarterback, but not when the GOAT's the quarterback. Man, I had to go do it. We went over there. Like I said, my son has his jersey. Forever grateful. He's the GOAT. Enough said about that. Like I said, we can go on with all the stories and everything he meant. So unless you got anything else, I know we got one Michigan man to another. But go ahead.
I got real quick before we move on, man. I want to talk about the future of Tampa Bay with this news, because I actually follow kind of each team and their cap space and their draft capital they have coming up. I think Tampa was ranked number 13 on this list, basically meaning it goes on a ranking. So it combines how much cap space they have available going into this next year. So with Tom, I don't even know if that's with Tom, it being updated with Tom. It might have been, I'm not sure. And where they're picking in the draft and how many draft picks they have, so on and so forth. So I think with the core that Tampa has, they're going to be okay as long as they bring in somebody like a Teddy Bridgewater or Jimmy Garoppolo, a very strong, game manager to move the sticks. If they re-sign Godwin and they're able to bring some pieces back, I mean, Jason Licht, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
He's a really good drafting GM, maybe one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. So right. I think people need to understand. I mean, they're probably going to lose Gronk too. He's probably going to retire right there with Tom.
I think Lenny might go. I'm pretty sure Jensen might go. It's definitely going to be a different team. But like you said, and Tom did us a solid. By retiring when he's actually saving us. I think it's $16 million in cap space this year. So good looking out, Tom. I appreciate it. We gave him the keys to the city. We gave him his general manager hat. Let him recruit all of his friends, do whatever he wanted. We gave him complete freedom, hooked him up with everything he wanted. And now he's paying us back a little bit. I appreciate that because we're going to need it. Like you mentioned, Godwin, to me, that means he's obviously priority one. He's going to stick around. I think Jensen might walk, Carlton Davis might walk, Gronk, Lenny. So there's going to be 4 guys that we're going to be losing, but we have 6 draft picks, 7 draft picks, whatever it is. I think the core is still in place, depending on who the quarterback situation is. I think at the worst case scenario, we got Kyle Trask as the starter, and he's a second-round pick in year 2. I know a lot of the Bucs fans, myself included, would rather us go for a freaking Aaron Rodgers or one of these guys that is going to help us compete and win right now, because I don't think Kyle Trask is going to win a Super Bowl next year. But I do think he can win the division next year. And I think that he can get some good experience under his belt. I think he's got size. I think he's got a big arm. I think we drafted him for a reason. I think that he will be the guy eventually. So you mentioned Teddy Bridgewater, which is to me the perfect bridge to a quarterback like Trask. You know what I mean? So
you're using my metaphor, and I like it.
TV to TV, man. I'll take another one. But I think that's like you said. Ultimately, Trask, I think, is going to be the guy. Worst case scenario, he's the guy now. But I think if that's the case, we're going to see some growing pains, obviously. And I don't think anyone considers us Super Bowl contenders with Kyle Trask in year 1 by any means. So I think that's the biggest letdown when you go from the GOAT to that, So that's what we, as a Bucs fan, you want to compete for another Super Bowl. But like I said, I realistically Trask can win us a division. I feel seriously because the team around him, Jimmy Garoppolo, we just saw him take a really good 49er team. So I think if we got a guy like him or Teddy Bridgewater or somebody, then sure we can maybe make a playoff run. But to hell with the playoff run and a bridge if you're not going to ultimately win the whole damn thing. You want a guy that can win you the whole thing. So to me, go big game hunting first. Check in on Aaron Rodgers, check on Russell Wilson. To me, Deshaun Watson is going to be too expensive because we got to keep Godwin. We got to keep our core, which is the most important thing. We got to keep our core intact. So I think, like you mentioned, Bridgewater, Garoppolo to me makes a lot more money. Bridgewater made $4.5 million against the cap last year for the Broncos. If we can get a quarterback that cheap to Matt, like Teddy Bridgewater's never had a team like the Buccaneers. So I prefer Teddy Bridgewater over Jimmy Garoppolo easily, just based off the cap space, so we can retain our other players. And to me, that's the most important thing is keeping the core. Right now, Godwin, he's like I mentioned, he's priority one. He's the leader on offense. Mike Evans has been that, but he's getting a little bit older. To me, Godwin is going to be the next guy to lead our offense. He's going to be the next guy he's going to take the captain, the C on the jersey is going to go from Brady to Godwin. And Trask can come in or whoever can come in. But Godwin, we think the world of him in Tampa. I already know Jason Light loves him. I don't see any chance we're letting him get out the door. He's going to get locked down. So I think the Bucs, how they handle the quarterback situation, obviously will determine whether they can make the Super Bowl run again. But I think they're still winning the division, mainly because the division isn't the best. We obviously have Atlanta, Carolina, and New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't even have a coach right now. Carolina, they don't even have a quarterback right now. Atlanta, they're Atlanta.
Carolina doesn't have a coach either. Carolina doesn't have a real coach either.
Yeah, touche.
You talk about that division, man, and obviously it's been the Bucs and Saints over the last couple of years that have really kind of fought it out. The Falcons are kind of a young team that are trying to figure it out. We're going to kind of see what happens with Matt Ryan. He's kind of one of those quarterbacks that goes under the rug. I think he might be a free agent at the end of this year. If he's not a free agent, he's
next year.
I
think he's got one more year.
I was gonna say if he's not a free agent, he's gonna be one of those guys that you're gonna hear a lot in trade talk and stuff like that because they're trying to get younger in Atlanta. So he could be a quarterback that's on the move. You hear reports about Russ. I don't think Russ is going anywhere. But going back to that division, it's definitely very winnable. So you mentioned New Orleans not having a quarterback, they don't have a head coach. And we all thought Dennis Allen was going to kind of just get promoted into that spot. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. They're starting to do interviews. So, that could take some time. Jameis is going to have a long road to get healthy again. And we're going to see if he sticks around with them, if they keep him around.
He's going to have some suitors, man. I heard a report that he's going to have several suitors trying to bid for his services. Jameis Winston, man, he's a young guy that could play. We saw his best football, like we talked about last week or whenever it was, that he could play. He's young, and I heard he's gonna have some suitors. So like, I honestly thought about bringing him back to Tampa Bay, but I don't think I don't know if he would even want that for one, and for two, like I mentioned, I want to keep Godwin. He's the future leader, and to me, we got to go with the cheaper route. Brady took a discount 2 years in Tampa to win like he always did. These other guys, Jameis doesn't want to take a discount. Jameis hasn't been paid that big contract yet, and he wants to get that. So these guys, these high profile, expensive guys, financially, it's going to be hard to work in Tampa with retaining Godwin and paying like an Aaron Rodgers or something. So that's why, like you brought out the bridge quarterbacks, Garoppolo and Bridgewater. I think those are more in line in Tampa anyway, as far as but the quarterbacks, man, this offseason, you brought up Matt Ryan. There's for your Vikings, Kirk Cousins is in the final year of his deal. I think Derek Carr in the final, even though Josh McDaniels says that he really likes Derek Carr. There's rumored to be a ton of quarterback movement this offseason. So you never know.
Yeah, and take this for what you will. And I know this is kind of conspiracy a little bit. I don't think guys in Vegas are very happy with that hiring. So there's going to be some ripples within that organization. I think within the next couple of months, players going to be on the move. I know Josh Jacobs tweeted out something pretty negative about McDaniels, and then he deleted it. So
One of their corners put out a supportment post today of Bisaccia. I know they really like Rich Bisaccia.
yeah, so that could be a team that's going to make some ripples. And you mentioned Derek Carr. He could be a guy that's on the move. It could be, I mean, they might make a splash. I mean, McDaniels worked with Garoppolo when Garoppolo was younger. So maybe that's somewhere where, he might land.
That's a good point.
So there's some talk. I mean, they still have Mariota. I know a lot of guys still like Mariota in Vegas.
He's a free agent.
Yeah, across the league even. So there's gonna be a lot of quarterback ripples, and it's a lot of news we're gonna have to keep up with. I heard today, Jimmy G is kind of the favorite in the Bucks right now to go out and get, but I think that's just fan hoopla.
No, but my Chris, he actually sent me a message saying the same exact thing. I was like, yeah, right. He's option like 10. I don't think the Bucks are so like he's not a guy that you're eager to get right now. This time last year is when the Matthew Stafford trade went down. Stafford's a guy you go get. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a guy you go get. Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy you settle for. No disrespect, Jimmy, but it's just the truth. You don't go out and
Yeah.
go get him this early without checking all your other options first.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like you mentioned, there's a lot of ripples, and there's gonna be a lot of rumors. And speaking of rumors, man, you kind of already started to get into it from your team to my team. There's a rumor today that the Vikings are gonna hire Jim Harbaugh. It's starting to have more legs. And, I've gotten into it with you. I've gotten into it with Josh. I've gotten into it with other, even Niner fans because, they're all about Jim Harbaugh over there. I've gotten into it with other friends of mine. As a Vikings fan, I have nothing. I'm going to go on record and say I have nothing against Jim Harbaugh. I think he's a good head coach. I'm not going to talk negatively about him. Now, we kind of got into it today about, kind of what I mean by that. I think he can go in there and he's going to, with the right team, with the right people in place, he could definitely go to a Super Bowl like he'd show with the Niners. Minnesota is a team that was very, very close to being a 12-5 team this year. It's just they would not close games. Now, Jim Harbaugh could come in and he could definitely be that guy who can get us over the hump. He very well could be. I'm not going to lie to you. He could be. But I could see him wanting his quarterback. I could see him wanting his offense. I could see him wanting, to make changes to suit him. And we don't have that roster right now. We run 3 wide, most of the time. Our defense is a 4-3. There's a lot of things that he would change. And I'm not sure as a Vikings fan if I'm comfortable with making that many changes right now. It wouldn't be a rebuild, it'd be a reset. He would go and get everything done within one off season. Where Minnesota's sitting right now, we are on that list I was talking about. We're actually sitting at 17. So but because of the fact that we have the number 12 pick, so that's a pretty high pick. But we're $10 million negative in salary cap. So what does that mean? That means that Kirk Cousins is going to have to restructure his deal. There's no way around. If we're going to keep Kirk, we're either going to have to restructure and convert it all into a signing bonus, or we're going to have to trade him. I mean, there's only 2 options.
That's pretty common though. A lot of quarterbacks, over the last couple of years have been doing that. They've been restructuring their contract. I know Brady has done it forever. He's did it in New England forever. He came to Tampa and did it. I'm pretty sure Mahomes did it so they can get some guys last year. A lot of quarterbacks have been doing it, because they get paid so much compared to every other position that they have to do that. They have to find a way. Otherwise, it's hard to actually roster a complete competitive team when your quarterback takes up X amount percentage of your, roster.
So now the decisions we have to make this year. Now we have a lot of roster spots to fill as well. So it's not just quarterback. So we're going to have to fill. I still think we have to go out and find a wide receiver 3. So I think we have to fill that spot, unless if Smith Marset kind of takes that role. He kind of did at the end of the year this year. So I liked him, coming out of college. But we'll see if he can actually fill those shoes. We're going to have to fill an outside linebacker spot, whether it's with Anthony Barr or somebody else, because he's a free agent. We're going to have to fill, and this is projected. So we're $10 million even without these guys. So we're in a lot of trouble. So Patrick Peterson is a guy who only signed a 1-year deal. Xavier Woods is a guy who only signed a 1-year deal. Who else? Or somebody else on that list? Thielen has 2 years left. Harrison Smith just signed a 3 or 4 year extension. So, I mean, we have our core. Our offensive line is pretty young. I mean, our tackles make I think they're like the lowest paid tackles in football. So those are young guys, but we're still $10 million under the cap. So what that means is we're going to have to come in, and we're probably either having to trade Kirk or restructure him to where everything's signed into a signing bonus. And then we're going to have to figure out those pieces on defense, because that's 3 big spots for us. And Patrick Peterson has already said he wants to come back, but he wants a similar deal of what he got last year, and we can't afford $2 million.
No, and you can't give that to him. He's not the old Patrick Peterson anymore, anyways.
Exactly.
So you can draft a corner.
He played, out of our corners, he was our best corner last year. That's not saying
he's
much.
Exactly, but he's with how smart he is, with his ball skills, his ability. He just doesn't have the juice and explosion that he used to have. He used to cover ground and make up distance and be able to get things. Those are gone. He's going to be in the right spot where you need him. He's trustworthy. He's solid, but at that number and with your guys' cap situation, I don't see that happening. You guys got to. I think Kirk will restructure. And to me, Harbaugh, if you want to win now, which that division, especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves, is going to be ready to win now. He's the guy to get you to win right now. With that cap situation the way it is, you just need to maximize the players that you have. And you have some good players already in place. I think Barr, he's been overpaid for a while. Kendricks is a good linebacker. Other than that, on defense, you got Harry up front. It's Hunter's. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, so you're wasting money essentially up there. You can draft an edge guy, you can draft a corner, but to keep the core and elevate them, I think Harbaugh. Dalvin Cook was going to love him. Kirk is going to – I think he's an aggressive style guy. You guys were in so many close games last year that came down to coaching. And I think Harbaugh is a guy that is – he is a leader of men. Everywhere he goes, his percentage has been good. In San Francisco, he revived Alex Smith's career. Alex Smith was labeled a bust, basically, and then – they get Harbaugh. Harbaugh takes Alex Smith, I believe, to the championship game. I know he had that one touchdown run against the Saints or whatever it was. I know him and Drew Brees going at it when Drew Brees had Jimmy Graham on the Saints. That was a good game. And Alex Smith, he had a nice long run down the sidelines to take it in. He revitalized Alex Smith, and then he went on to Kansas City and had a good little run there, good run in Washington. But before, he was a bust. Kaepernick went to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick, who can't find a job for whatever reasons I won't get into, but he
I'll get into it.
He's not the best quarterback. Yeah, there you go. He's not a good quarterback, but yeah, I think those guys, they're not Kirk Cousins. To me, Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. He just had a top 5, 10, quarterback year in the NFL. His stats are always pretty good. So it's not like Harbaugh's going to come in and boost his stats. I think he's going to boost the team, and that's what he needs, because it's not Kirk. Kirk has been good. Jefferson is good. Dalvin's good. That's not the reason they lose games. They lose games because they can't stop anybody or because they collapse when having a late lead because of bad play, whatever it is. They don't go for it when they should have go for it. They had a defensive minded
That's it right there.
Who trusted his defense way too much instead of going for it on certain situations. So Harbaugh, that's not him. Harbaugh is what he did to Alex Smith mentally, you would see him go up to him and hit him on the head, hit him on the shoulders, get him all pumped up before the games. Like, he was in his corner. He had his back. The dude played the position. He's going to elevate that position. So I think for Kirk and for the Vikings, if you want to win now, he's the guy. McConnell, I know you like him because the whole 3 receiver thing and the biggest, I understand Harbaugh he's not a 3 receiver guy. He's a 2 tight end, run the ball, mix it up. So he really only needs one elite receiver, and that one is Jefferson for sure. So I can understand, and with that number that Thielen is making, but Thielen can take a page, and I think he is a kind of guy that would take a page out of Mike Evans' book. And Mike Evans has restructured, I think, 3 or 4 years in a row now to help us keep guys. AT is a guy that will do that. I think he will restructure, and he'll still get his money, but he can restructure just like Kirk was, where they transfer it to a bonus, do something. But either way, as far as winning and affecting your best players, Harbaugh, that's what coaches do, is elevate their best players. And to me, Harbaugh has done that everywhere he's went.
Yeah, and this is where I strongly disagree with you on this, okay? Because Adam Thielen is somebody that is 33, 34 years old now. He has 2 or 3 years left on his deal. He is a Minnesota boy, born and bred, and he's somebody that needs to be brought back, and he needs to retire a Viking. The problem with him right now is in a 2 wide receiver set, he's a very easy way for us to save money. And Jim Harbaugh has absolutely zero need for him if we're only running mostly 2 wide receivers. And as a Vikings fan, as Adam Thielen being my favorite player in the NFL, if he is to get traded, that's like a shot in the heart to me, and that's coming out.
Do you want to make the playoffs, or do you want to keep Adam Thielen?
Well, I think we can make the playoffs with Adam Thielen because I still think he's a top guy. So this is why I like Kevin O'Connell as our hire, and I'm going to give you a couple of reasons. Number one, Kirk is not Alex Smith, and he's not Colin Kaepernick. He's somebody that is 70+% accuracy.
Way better than both.
But he doesn't need to be fixed. The problem with Kirk is so when we talk about having the it factor, when we talk about, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, getting into crunch time, Aaron Rodgers, there's times where this guy, you're just waiting for him to make that throw that fucks the game up. As a Vikings fan, I've seen it, the last 4 years that he's been a Viking, I've seen it 10, 15 times to lose games, so that's his issue, is just confidence. And what Harbaugh is going to bring, he's going to bring expectations. He's going to bring expectations of winning the division, pushing Super Bowl. And what's that going to do? That's going to put pressure on Kirk. And Kirk is kind of the guy that's going to kind of wilt like a little flower. And he's proven that he wilts like a flower when there's so much pressure on him. What we need to do is we need to take the pressure off of Kirk. We need to keep the offense that he's familiar with. Let Dalvin be the center point. Let Justin Jefferson, let these guys, the 3 wide receiver that he's used to, let these guys come in and make the plays. And Kirk just has to make the throws. But if you're going to have him come in and have to learn an entire new offense, an entire new playbook, because what makes a team successful? When a coach comes in and he plays to his player strengths, not when the players have to play to this coach's strengths. And that's why I don't think Jim Harbaugh is a good fit for Minnesota. He's going to come in, he's going to change everything around. Yes, maybe he, because he was a quarterback and he played quarterback position, maybe he has some insight that he can give Kirk, and maybe it changes his entire, mentality around. That's a possibility. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. That's a possibility. But you're Adam Thielen. Yes, Justin Jefferson is the most talented receiver on that team, if not one of the most talented receivers in football. But Adam Thielen is Kirk's security blanket. You take that away from Kirk, I don't know what that's going to do. So in that aspect, if we're going to bring Harbaugh in, as a fan of the team and a fan of the franchise of my entire life, I would actually like to see Kirk be traded and bring in another quarterback. I don't think that's the right fit for Minnesota. I just don't. I don't think that's the good quarterback tandem.
We disagree. Plain and simple. The reason you're talking about fixing Kirk, nothing's wrong with Kirk. Kirk just had a
Well, there
said
is.
Kirk had a
I
top
told
10
you the
year.
final 2 minutes, the final 3 minutes of a game.
Right, but then that's when all, like you said, that's when all the pressure is on him, and that's not Harbaugh's not going to do that. He didn't put all the pressure on Alex Smith. He didn't put all the
Well, there are
pressure
going to
on
be
Colin Kaepernick.
expectations.
He
There's going
just
to be
didn't want
expectations.
them. He just didn't want them to mess up. He built a great defense in San Francisco. The defense is the main issue in Minnesota right now. If the defense, because offensively they score points, they probably have I don't have it in front of me, but they probably have a top 10 scoring offense. I would imagine with all the talent on that side of the. Yeah, with all the talent on that side of the ball, I imagine offensively they're fine. Like I said, defensively though, and raising up the entire team, special teams, the aggressiveness on play calling on both sides of the ball. I feel I know you mentioned, oh, we have 4-3 personnel on that defense. Like I said, you got two really good players that are worth keeping. The rest, you got to trust in Harbaugh, and if he brings in Vic Fangio, go ahead and let him change. I was a 4-3 Bucks guy forever with Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, all them. They ran 4-3. We brought Todd Bowles in. We changed a few things up, and it works out. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of your best players. You keep your best players and just utilize them in a different way. I don't think if Harbaugh's a guy, he's not going to come in and try to get rid of good players. He's trying to bring in more good players. He's trying to win right now. Harbaugh's not going anywhere to rebuild. I think Harbaugh would go there. He would elevate Kirk. He would keep Thielen. And sure, they run fullback and tight end set, but you can have a fullback, a running back, a tight end, and still have your two receivers out there. Because Thielen's a guy that don't mind blocking. You can motion him in tight. He can almost play a tight end style. Like he's a nasty dude. He'll do all that dirty work. He don't mind. So I don't think.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of guy, you said he's a Minnesota guy. To me, like Mike Evans restructured several times. I think Thielen can do that. I don't think Harbaugh means the
He
end
definitely can do it.
Kirk.
Is he going to have the opportunity to do it? Jim Harbaugh has never had a $35 million quarterback at the helm. Okay, right. So he's never had a team to where he was really up against the cap, and we have a lot of veterans on our team. We don't have a whole bunch of young guys. So, and
he might be like a guy that thinks like I played the position, so I don't need to have a high profile guy. I can make a team and I can coach my quarterback to.
Well, he can bring up Kellen Mond, and Kellen Mond is probably similar to Kaepernick in the way of he's young, he's raw, and he's going to use his legs. And I mean, he could probably win with somebody like that. So, like I said, if we're going to bring in Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to be a fan either way. If we bring in Harbaugh, I'm going to support him, and I hope that he's able to do what everybody's saying.
You're going to learn to love him when you guys.
Yeah, I'll learn to love him no matter what. But what I'm saying right now, the reason why I don't like the hire right now is I don't think he's the best fit for us for what we already have right now. I don't have anything against the guy at all.
Right.
At all. I think he's a great NFL coach because he proved it with San Francisco. And obviously, you say he's a leader of men, but he's a college coach. So he's a leader of young men. So, I mean, but if you look at the NFL coach,
they didn't go to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm saying if you look at what he did with that team, his relationship with Kaepernick and got the best out of Kaepernick was what really got them.
What were the 49ers before Harbaugh? Trash.
They were a decent defense with no offense.
Nobody even knew. They didn't have anybody. They had a first overall
they had
pick,
Justin Smith. They had Patrick Willis. They had the pieces on defense.
And the defense,
they had nobody on offense.
But the defense wasn't there. Yeah, but they weren't.
Okay, what I'm saying is he connects with these young quarterbacks.
They were a good team the entire time he was there.
Okay, but he connects with these young. So you talk about Kaepernick, and yes, he did propel Kaepernick. And then once Harbaugh left, Kaepernick turned to shit. So yes, I do see that. That's why I'm saying if we were to bring him in, I can see Kellen Mond becoming our quarterback sooner rather than later. Now, whether or not that guy has the it factor or not, who knows? We haven't seen him yet. I mean, same thing with
Zimmer didn't seem to think so.
He didn't think so at all.
And he was a third-round pick, right? He was a third-round pick, right?
Our GM and our head coach did not communicate last year because of that reason. Spielman really liked Kellen Mond, and Zimmer didn't want to give him the time of day.
He was a third round, right?
He was the top of the third round, yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's not a lot of pressure to get a third round pick on the field. So
Zimmer has no business being anywhere around an offense. He's not an offensive. He is a typical, old fashioned defensive mind, and he had no business being around. He needed to let the offensive coordinator, whoever we've switched so many times the last 4 or 5 years. That was a problem too, having to learn different offenses. And Kubiak, we had Gary Kubiak, and then we had his son, take over. And Clint Kubiak, he took over last year, and it's just, he kind of ran a similar offense as his dad. It was more of a run first, zone run, play action off it, which worked for us. And that's the kind of offense we need to have. They like to run 3 wide receivers. Irv Smith will be coming back next year, a young tight end that gives our quarterback another option. That was a big loss, and we lost him in preseason. Nobody really talked about, but I'm apprehensive of how many changes. Now, if he comes in and he's able to run our offense the way we run it, and he's able to adapt to the team that we have, I'm all for it. Because you're right, he has a winning mentality. He wins everywhere he goes. I'm not disputing that, because that's obvious. Is he going to because he also seems like he's one of those coaches that kind of has a big ego, and he's going to come in, he's going to adapt. He's going to make you adapt to him rather than adapt to them. And I just don't know if Minnesota.
Belichick has the ego too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I shouldn't have compared him to Belichick, but
you could probably compare him to another good head coach in the NFL, and it's his brother.
Right.
Right. And John has done a very good job with Lamar. Is Lamar ever going to win a Super Bowl? I personally don't think so. I don't think he's a top NFL quarterback. You talk about the young quarterbacks in the AFC. I put him at 5 or 6. I obviously the top 4 we've already talked about plenty amount of times. But with Jim, he did a great job with Kaepernick, and then after Jim left, Kaepernick went to shit. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a bad head coach. The fit to me, because with Kevin O'Connell, we run a very similar offense to the Rams. It's very similar, down to the quarterback, down to the receiver talent, down to the way we run a zone offense, everything. And that's Kevin O'Connell's offense. Now, our defense, I understand we need a lot of work. And Patterson, our defense coordinator.
Harbaugh.
But we had a defensive-minded head coach, and they were still shit. I don't see Harbaugh coming in and being a defensive guru and just fixing everything all at once. So I don't really see that being like, oh, he's going to come in and make our defense a top 10 defense right off the bat with the guys that we already have. That's going to take work, and it's going to depend. If Patterson stays, he is a D-line coach. He is not a coordinator. He knows nothing about linebackers and our secondary. On our D-line, we have good D tackles, and Daniel Hunter is a good D tackle. He's a good DN that's going to be coming back, and he has a friendly deal.
Freak athlete. He can play the 3-4 outside linebacker scheme. And if you bring in Vic Fangio had the Denver Broncos defense how good? 3 years ago when he was in Chicago, had the Bears defense humming. When he was in San Francisco as Harbaugh's defensive coordinator, had that defense working. That's the biggest thing the Vikings need to work on.
So
you don't need a top 10 defense. You don't need a top 5 defense. You can't expect a defense to go from a bottom 5 to a top 5. That's in one off season and put it on all the head coach. Can't do that. The defense needs to just be 15-ish, be in that, be middle of the pack. Because the offense, if you got a top 5 offense, all you need is the middle of the pack, opportunistic defense that gets a few turnovers when you need them most. The Niners didn't have a great defense until the playoffs. They kind of started stepping up, but all year their secondary was beat a lot. So you guys defensively, when your offense is that good, your defense just has to not be atrocious. Really, look at the Chiefs, the Bengals. Are the defenses great? But if your offense is that good, which the Vikings have the talent to be, Harbaugh. We can keep going back and forth over this all day, man. But I'm taking Harbaugh. I understand why you want McConnell, though. It's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. But I'm pretty sure it's the only known interview Harbaugh has accepted. So I think there's some, like you said, there's picking up some steam here. There's the only reason we're talking talking about it is because there are some rumors coming out today that
Yeah.
it might actually happen here, huh?
It is now down between those two. I know I don't really know his name, but he's a defensive coordinator from the Giants. I really don't want that to come through. And
Right.
then
Yeah.
Raheem Morris is kind of a dark horse. Mark Wilf, who's our president of operation, the owner's son, he's already came out and said that we want an offensive minded. It's the reason why we went out and got Mensah as our GM, because he's a Moneyball guy. He's an analytics guy. He is a roll the dice, see what happens type of guy. We are going to take risks. I expect fully to maybe even trade back up into the first round and start addressing some of these major. He's going to take risks. He's going to make things happen. Instead of moving back and kind of being the safe guy like Spielman was, we're going to now be moving forward. And, I think we're going to try to get a head coach that matches that mentality, and Jim might be one of those guys. I know for a fact Kevin O'Connell is that guy. So I know that's why we've interviewed him twice. I know Mensah has some connections with him. I think that's honestly our strongest head coach. It's down between those two, and it's going to be a decision that I would be shocked if we don't hear, maybe even tomorrow. Like we might get an answer by tomorrow. And, I'm a Vikings fan either way, man. It's not like I'm going to sit there and put the X's up and wave a black flag if Harbaugh's hired. It's going to mean a big change for our team. And, I have 2 Thielen jerseys hanging in my closet. And if that guy gets traded, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot, and I just don't want to see it happen. And, he's the number one guy. Like if you read they're all rumor reports, but you read these reports and he's the number one guy on that list because of his age, because of his cap number, and because of Justin Jefferson being who Justin Jefferson is. So, it just worries me. It worries me. I'm not gonna say it scares me, because we're going to be, a very average, maybe above average slightly because of the division. I'm not going to say we're going to win Super Bowl no matter who comes into the office, but I would like to see, the guys that I've made a connection with on my squad. I'd like to see him intact next year, man. Like I would like to see Harry, for the next 10 years. I'd like to see these guys. I like to see Kirk, man. I actually come to be fond of him a little bit, and
quarterbacks of that caliber don't come around. To get rid of him and for who? Like to me, he's a proven guy. I don't think Harbaugh's getting rid of him. I don't think he'd honestly get rid of.
It's not that he wants to.
He
may not have a choice. He may not have a choice because of his cap number.
Well, if he had to, then it's Thielen, like we just talked about. That's the easy. Like for me, it's a little easier. I don't have the connection that you do, obviously, but you got Jefferson, you got Dalvin, and the quarterback is the most important position. So if you got a sure thing, which Kirk is a pretty sure thing, he's not going to be bad. That's for sure. So he's going to stick with him. Harbaugh gives you guys the best chance to win. It's as simple as that for me.
Dalvin's another guy that can convert his cap number because he has a $14 million cap number for next year. He's another guy that can convert that. So, I mean, we have options. You're right. Thielen could restructure and he can make it a team-friendly deal. I think his only like 8 or 9, but he could probably
I think they're more
save us a
likely
little
to do that with Harbaugh because Harbaugh, he brings a little more hope, a little more like, okay, we might actually have a chance to win right now. Let's do this and let's go for it right now.
Yeah.
You bring in the younger guy, then they might, they might not do that. They might not think that they actually have a chance. Does he give them as much confidence as a Harbaugh does? Hell no.
There's in my book, there's just a lot more questions on what the team will look like with him at head coach. But again, I said it before. I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to knock the guy. He's a great head coach. I'm not going to knock him. But there's so many questions behind that. I mean, behind it. And I mean, I watch pressers. I communicate with Vikings fans on social media, on multiple platforms, and everybody's kind of saying the same thing. Like we want it to kind of keep the team intact and, make it better because we were not far off. And I do believe that this is a team that can compete in that division plus some, especially with, the Bucs kind of, they're losing their general. The Packers are losing their general. I mean, the NFC could be open next year.
You guys beat the Packers in Green Bay.
Yeah. So, I
Didn't
mean,
you? Well,
it's open. And look what the Bengals did. You just got to get there now, you know? So there's hope with the franchise, with the team we have. And we were close being a good team making a run. And we showed glimpses of it. It's just that 4th and 2 at the plus 40 and kicking the ball down because you believe in our defense. That's not the way you play the NFL anymore. Analytics says to go for it, and Zimmer wouldn't. So just give me a guy. At the end of the day, give me a guy who's going to go for it on 4th and 4. You know, even if it's the second quarter and we're up by 7. Give me a guy who's going to go for that because he believes in his offense that can get it, and then believes that his defense can defend a short field. Give me that guy. Whoever that guy is, give me that guy. If that's Harbaugh, give me that guy.
Right.
That's all.
It could be, man. Coaching, you said it. A lot of close games. Coaching goes a long ways, man. It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. There's still a few other openings also, but that's the only. Harbaugh is obviously the highest profile coach in Canada out there, and it's the only known interview to take place is the one in Minnesota. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes out. I know I'm on Team Harbaugh. You're on Team McConnell. You're obviously the Vikings fan. We're gonna see how it plays out. It's going to be interesting, man. Like I said, I lean with Harbaugh. He's the top candidate for me. I don't know what you guys think. And then going back to Tom Brady, what do you guys think? Is he the GOAT athlete, or is he, where does he rank on your guys' list?
Last little tidbit about Harbaugh, he does prefer Minnesota because obviously we are probably the better roster. But another team that has shown interest in him is Miami. So that's another team that he can, and to me, that's a better fit for him because of Tua. But, we'll see what happens. That's all I got to say about that. So.
It's a better fit for him because of Miami. And when you're old, everyone wants to retire in Miami. So to me, like, you'd rather go to Miami than Minnesota, obviously. So to me, like, maybe that, but you're right. I mean, as far as football, if you want to win, see what happens. It's going to be some fun. I know we've been getting into it over this all day, but it's good.
All right, brother.
We could have some news here breaking tomorrow.
Yeah.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah, we're starting to break you up a little bit, but we'll probably know by Friday as the latest. I would say we're going to know tomorrow. We've done all our second interviews. We're going to know. So anyway, it looks like we're losing Brian. He's got his eyes closed on my screen. So anyway, guys, let us know if you agree or disagree. And there he is doing his little dance. Yeah, let us know. Let us know what you guys think, man. I mean, I know I'm in the lower part of it. I'm a Vikings fan though, so I'm speaking as a fan, not necessarily as a NFL guy. I'm speaking as a fan, so that might be where we're going to disagree. But let us know. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Instagram. Follow us on Spotify and Podbean, like always. And until next time, guys, take care.